why I started down that path was two reasons. The first one was in college. I had a relationship with a woman that I was madly in love with, and she was bipolar, schizophrenic, and in therapy. So a lot of the interactions that I was had with her was like a crash course in understanding yourself,
Right.
and going really, really fucking deep, because that's what she was doing. She was going really deep, and I was like, this is terrifying, and I don't know what's going on. But I loved her so much, I was just like, I'm in for the ride. So I learned it was just like going through the ringer. On that.
Without getting into specifics, because we don't want to, talk about somebody who's not here to talk about
Sure.
themselves. But being in a relationship with somebody that's having those sorts of difficulties,
Mm-hmm.
do you have a perspective on that? Like it's a difficult position, right?
It's one of the hardest things I've ever done, for sure. I mean, dealing with someone with that kind of mental health issues. I mean, I didn't know really what, like, I couldn't deal with my own emotional landscapes.
How old were you at the time?
19,
Oh,
20.
fuck. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
and here's someone that I was madly in love with, and wanted to help, but I couldn't help myself. Like, this is like a drowning person, or watching a drowning person knowing you've never been in a pool before.
Mm-hmm.
That was the situation there. So yeah, I mean, mental health it's huge. It's a really big,
It's a major issue.
it's a major issue.
It's yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail it. It's just it's a topic that's sort of close
Yeah.
to, you know what I mean, because
Yeah.
dealing with people who have mental illness, especially close people, is trying's the wrong word, but it's challenging, and it's emotionally challenging.
Yeah.
Like, more than anything else, like mentally and physically and all the other stuff, that's one thing, but like emotionally, that tear between like wanting to help somebody and, like you said, not knowing what to do or being able to, or like just sort of being beside yourself, and then how do you deal with yourself as a human being dealing with a person that you can't deal with sometimes? Like,
Yeah.
it's a difficult
Oh,
thing.
it challenges you on the most, like, highest level.
How old were you when that relationship ended?
It was only about a year long.
Okay,
even less than a year.
so you kind of went through that all young, right?
All young.
How long? I'm guessing even probably right to this day, but how long did those lessons sort of trail off with you?
Oh, it's like into my DNA, I think,
Yeah.
at this point. Yeah.
Does it affect other relationships that you have?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're aware of, or
Yeah.
do you find it sneaking in from time to
No,
time?
I mean, if I go, I don't know why I did that, I'm very surprised. I'm like, wow, I didn't catch something there. It was like, most of the time I'm like, I know why I was an asshole just then. I know why I was passive aggressive, and I usually try to cop to those things. Like, I'm timing myself on like a second basis. Like, how quickly are you going to be honest about this stupid thing you just said?
Right.
And I want to be like really clean. I want to be immaculate with my word, and be intentional, and always be like, no, this is the true, honest kind of like person that I want to be.
It's funny. Because you're clearly an introspective person. Um, was that ever problematic for you? Like, did you ever get so introspective that you sort of like didn't like how introspective you were? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, with my girlfriend at the time, it did get to the point where I started to lose sight of who I was, because she needed a partner in the path that she was taking, which was kind of letting go, and not dealing with therapy anymore, and going down the path of kind of self-destruction.
Okay.
And because she was like the master and I was the student, I just sort of followed down that, and ended up kind of going to the edge of a precipice and going, I don't understand what's on the other side of this. I'm really like lost. And I didn't, like, if you'd asked me at that time, like, what do you like? What do you want to do? Like, who are you? And I'd be like, I don't know. I'm like,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
totally lost.
That's interesting.
So, but beyond that, I've never, no, I love this mode of being, and I'm very open and honest with anyone who wants to talk about whatever. And, because I found that kind of being honest and vulnerable is actually a strength, and it's only provided amazing things for me in my life.
It's interesting because, like, you seem to have been like adjacent to all that. You talk about the romantic ideas of a musician, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and drugs and but all of that stuff. But the reality of it is usually mental illness and drugs, and you know, a lot of that stuff, and a lot of craziness, and a lot of sort of like lack of structure. And you seem to have sort of had a path where you were like next to that, but always kind of with like a guiding sort of rope along to kind of keep you off of that edge. Yeah. Do you have any perspective on that?
Well, I don't believe that artists need to suffer. I don't believe that. I mean, but there's a. I guess I should check that before I say it really that way, because I mean, why I love doing what I do is because I always had a tough time. How do I say this? This is working as a collaborator with somebody else's vision is very appealing to me, because I'm a problem solver. I like figuring out, well, this is an interesting puzzle. How do we solve this with music? How do we tell this story? What's the hidden sort of like mechanics behind this, or what can we achieve by adding these layers together? I'm not really great by myself coming up with some sort of idea for an art project. It's just not in me to sort of self-generate, because if I come up with an idea and I think about it, I'm like, yeah, that'd be cool. Well, it's done in my head, so I don't need to produce it. So really for me, it's about process. It is about exploring ideas that are interesting to me, but they're not usually like this kind of like torn up, I need to work through my problems kind of stuff. Like, I don't write lyrics. I don't write music that's like, oh, it's like this or that. I like my music, I like when if I think about the music that really describes me best, if I'm like giving you a piece and going, this is me, it's more about like a sort of transcendent, mystical, like kind of dark but not scary, hopeful kind of sound. So it's not happy, but it's not dark and ugly. But it's like, it's a searching kind of thing. It's the person that's looking for some answer to something and is very hopeful that they're going to find it. That's the kind of feeling that I have.
Does the psychology of the idea that, like, there's a magic to film composing, because it's very much the Wizard of Oz.
Yep.
Right? Because it's the most hidden thing while simultaneously being the most prominent thing. It's the thing that's driving you through a film. Yeah. Usually more than the story in certain circumstances. But as an audience member, you're almost completely unaware of it. Is there any piece of that that's, I don't know, appealing, or like is that part of your thought? Huge. Yeah.
No, that's probably one of the most exciting things. There's a part of it that really appeals to me, which is the analytical side. If I look at a film, I'm analyzing the literary or the literature of like what the story structure is and how these things work together and what the sort of mechanics of it are. Then is the very important part of it, which is the psychological aspect. Like, how are you analyzing these characters? Why do they do what they do? What is their motivation? And then from that, I'm drawing, what should the motivation of the music be? How is that helping tell that story? What's that layer beneath that layer? And how do you not overstate something that's already on the screen well enough? And how do you not, you sort of finding that magic moment? But then you take all of that nice analytical stuff that I can write on a page and talk to you about, and have an interview and say, well, this is what we did here, and be all clever about it. But then there's this point where you just go, okay, now all that's gone, and now I somehow have to find the notes to say all that.
Right.
And that's where you just go, I don't know why this works the way it does. I couldn't tell you, like I can tell you post having written something, I can analyze for you why I think it works, but why I would generate something like that just iteratively is oh God, never mind. Or like by just sort of like working out something on the piano over and over again, so I'm going, it's sort of not, maybe this, maybe that, and sort of moving around this thing until something kind of clicks and you go, oh, and that's that. Like when you hit that moment and you like lay something up against picture and you go, oh my God, like this is starting to speak, like it's starting to do, it's resonating with the picture. It does this kind of like thing, and you see the characters look, you'll see things you never saw before, and the characters will do something. You're like, okay, now we're starting to get somewhere. This is starting to speak. That's the magical moment.
Don't forget, you can subscribe to our full audio episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you find your audio podcasts. The full episodes, highlights, and our live off-the-floor performance videos can be found at our YouTube channel, and you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at the AVB Podcast. Of course, you'll find links to our incredible sponsors and this week's guest in the description below. The AVB Podcast is part of the Border City Network. Find more great content at bordercitynetwork.com. See you next time, folks. Bye-bye.